What's the biggest lie society still tells young people? Story 1. You'll have all the time in the world to do everything. That suddenly turns into, now it's too late for that. You should have took the chances when you had them. Answer. I think both statements kind of mask an underlying truth. You can't do everything. People convince themselves that the young have time to do everything. And then when they're old, they convince themselves if only they'd spend their time more wisely when they were young. Maybe they'd have had time to do everything. But you probably can't do everything unless you're really lucky. Have a great career, have kids, own a nice home in the country, have pets, travel lots, retire early, party through your 20s, get a PhD, sleep with lots of people, have a lifelong romance for the ages, play every video game you want to, stay in great shape. Like, you can do a bunch of that. But at some point, you're going to leave some options on the table in order to pick up others. And that's okay. I think we lie to young people that they don't have to start deciding right away because it seems cruel to push that on them. But they're making choices about how to spend their limited time on Earth right from the time they're free to make any choices at all. Story 2. Hard work success. From what I've seen in the corporate world, your network is more important than what you actually produce. Answer. You can be the best ditch digger in the world by 5 times the next guy, world champion, and try harder than the best guy, and you will not get paid anymore. Life has never just been about effort. You can control effort, but it's just one tiny fraction of success. These tech guys that got loaded all got lucky. For every Bezos and Gates, there is another brilliant guy that just didn't get lucky. They were just as smart and worked just as hard, but the cookie didn't crumble their way. Story 3. Do what you love, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Work is work, no matter if you like it or not. Focus on getting a job that pays well and isn't soul-destroying. Do fun things as hobbies or side gigs. Story 4. That you can be anything you want to be, so people set their dreams so high that they never achieve it and live lives of misery and disappointment. The truth is, not everyone is going to be an astronaut or billionaire. Some of us are going to be directors of a nonprofit, and the work isn't sexy, but it's necessary work, and I now just try to be the best version of that I can be. I'm not going to be a fitness influencer or a rap god. When I was 16, I had big dreams, but I found a way to be happy with what I was capable of. Answer. This is so important and insightful. As a young kid, my 3 main areas of interest were sports, music, and making stuff. So as a teenager, my dreams were to leave my mark on this world as an athlete, musician, or inventor. Like 99.999 of people, that never really materialized in the way I hoped it would. Now at 46, I play sports because I love sports. I play guitar because I love creating music. I build and fix things because it brings me happiness. The secret isn't achieving status. The secret is doing what you love, even when devoid of any recognition, accolades, or wealth. Story 5. Once you're an adult, you can do anything you want. To do that, you need money. To have money, you gotta work 5 days a week, 8 hours each day at least to maintain life. And when you do, you're exhausted to do other things. Story 6. I know I'll be called an edgelord, but it's gotta be religion. Even if you believe, you most likely have to think that at least 23 of the world is lying about their religion because yours is the correct one. Story 7. That hard work pays off. You can be the best at your job and have the numbers to prove it, but your boss is still gonna hire a nepo to be your manager supervisor. Story 8. The assumption that when you get older in age, you miraculously figure life out and just be an adult. I'm sure we all have no fudge idea what's going on. Story 9. In general, they're unlikely to make it big. Working hard success. A Walmart cashier works their butt off. So does a guy tarring a roof. And what you know, they're not rich. A great deal of luck and who is your dad is involved. Answer. If you want to achieve success, you must first put yourself in a place from which obtaining it is possible. Being the best and hardest working produce picker will never give you the opportunities that working in a professional trade or corporate environment will. Sometimes that required hard work takes the form of learning new things, figuring out the path ahead and changing jobs to position yourself better. Spinning in place harder is not the same thing as working hard for yourself towards your own goals. Story 10. Work hard and you'll achieve your dreams. More like, be born between the 40s and mid-80s. Then, work not even that hard and you'll achieve your dreams. Now it's be born after the 80s, work extremely hard, and you'll dream of achieving for the rest of your life. Answer. This really needs a class disclaimer added. I was born late 70s, and we were hit with the 00 crash and the 08 crash when we were trying to get our careers going. We didn't get fudge on student loans like the late 80s to present kids, but everything else was hard unless you had family money. I've worked my jerk off since I was 15 to go from lower to middle class, have a decent job, and didn't make any major mistakes, and would never say I achieved my dreams. Economic studies show that for a family to escape poverty, they need 2 generations of grinding without any major financial mistakes or hardships. Story 11. The hard work always pays off. No, it doesn't. Sad reality it took me until I was in my 30s to learn is that sometimes you just work extremely hard, harder than everyone else, do your best, and you still fail. Some things you just are not meant to achieve. Story 12. The American dream. The house, the cars, the kids, and the money. Yes, it can be attainable, but at a price and a lot of sacrifice. Story 13. That's your special. It's not that no one cares. It's just everyone is going through life, and we are looking after the ones we love. I want to be the world's best. Insert dream. Go do it then. Stop looking at all the social media and news. Story 14. That an employee is a corporation's one asset. They also tell that lie to older people and everyone in between. Story 15. I always believed that being respectful, literate, and professional could get you anywhere in the professional world. Unfortunately, I have now learned that doesn't matter, and it is just who you know and privilege that makes you climb the ladder. Looking at you, politicians. Story 16. Everybody needs to go to college. Utter bullshit. Lots of kids aren't cut out for it and would be better off learning a trade. Story 17. That you have to have children. For some people, it's rewarding, but a lot of people are not actually equipped to be parents. They just feel like that's what they're supposed to do. Story 18. Education. A good job. Success. Wealth. I do feel like this lie is pretty worn out, and very few of my students are buying it nowadays, for which I am glad. I had a 4th grader who was learning how to be a YouTuber from his dad, who had a monetized channel. The child had already built a 500K following. That was one of several different income streams he planned to create before he could even go to college. Was a crazy good gamer too, and was trying to become globally competitive in FPS games, according to himself. Story 19. The good things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people. And then you turn around and see kids die from cancer, from earthquakes, from takedown, and you have to stop and think, what could a child possibly do for the universe to justify such a terrible outcome? Story 20. You can only be considered successful and settled in life if you have a family and own your home. If you're single and renting, then you've fallen behind and are basically a bit scruffy and dysfunctional. Story 21. Meritocracy. You work your jerk off your whole life and then die. Someone practically useless on top gets all the benefits while doing nothing. Story 22. Far too much of society is enabling young girls to sell their body on OnlyFans, etc. I'll probably get some dislike for this, but as a father of a young girl, it is terrifying to see. It's not okay, and it isn't empowering. We are raising a generation of young women, a lot of who are going to seriously regret their decisions in later years. Story 23. If you just work hard while you're young, you'll have more when you retire. Ain't no one retiring if you were born after 1985. Story 24. You will be respected at the right job. Companies want you there to keep their business running. You are paid to do things during the time, not just to be there. Your respect level is below their need to make a profit. Their least concern is what's happening on your phone. If you feel something is beneath you while on the job, or if you feel your personal time is more important than what they want. They want a warm body to do the job in a way that won't get them sued. Other than that, the company itself does not care about a level of respect the way you do. Sad, but important to note. The other lie is, you are irreplaceable. Unless you are the original founder of the business who still holds the magic formula known only to yourself, it isn't true. Your coworker friends might miss you. Your boss might miss you. If you died, they might come to your funeral and speak well of you. They will not shut down the business and will offshore the work, hire someone else, or find a workaround. They may not even like the Sokutujan as much, but they will do it. They will not completely stop and shut down the company. Unless you are that founder with the key trade secret, you are never irreplaceable. Don't give up your personal life for a company while thinking you are. Story 25. That you are special. We're really not. We are just another warm body on a rock that has no need for us. The world as a whole gives zero fudge about you, your desires, loves, beliefs, etc. It is only a small group of people who actually care about you, and that goes only as far as how it impacts their own desires, beliefs, loves, etc. Story 26. The idea of, quote, dream jobs and their job defining their life purpose. I thought something was wrong with me for not being interested in any particular profession. Kid shows often show teens or even kids who have decided on a career path, often glorifying various professions, so kids can go, I want to do that too when I grow up. Some kids do find out what they want to do it, and it works out, but not usually. So many kids have this idea in their head that there is the career out there for them, then realize after they've taken on debt that every single career has downsides to it, and none of them live up to the romanticized images they have in their head. So they flunk out or keep major hopping, never finishing. Story 27. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. A big reason why I love doing the things I love to do is that I get to do them for me, at my leisure, in my way, in my own timeline, and I can start over, switch projects, do whatever I want with it. When someone else pays me to do what I love, it's no longer for me, no longer at my leisure, no longer my vision, no longer my timeline, and I can't quit working on it just because I feel differently about it, so I no longer love it. I'm gonna tell my kids what I ended up doing. Find a nice, boring, predictable, high-paying job that I don't have to take home with me, so that I can have the time and resources to do what I love. Story 28. Just be nice, and everything will work out. After working in a corporate company, I've realized this is a lie, and that the people who climb their way to the top often do so by stepping over the throats of others. Story 29. Telling kids, you can be anything when you grow up. Some people are just not going to be able to achieve success as a brain surgeon. Story 30. No one is above the law. America is the land of the free. Taxes are the price of living in a civilized society. Story 31. That our society is a meritocracy. Hard work and skill can improve your situation, but there are limits to that improvement. The smartest move you can make, by far, is to be born to rich parents. Story 32. There's a Chris Rock bit about telling children, you can do or be anything you want, where he goes, I paraphrase, no you can't. You can maybe do what you're good at, if they hiring. Story 33. Study hard for you to have a promising career, and when you graduate with the highest honors, you will just end up earning minimum wage. Story 34. Your career choice at 18 must be determined by what you want to do the rest of your life. No one knows what they want to do the rest of the life. You can try one thing, discover if you like it or not, and change to another later. Story 35. If you study hard and get into a good school, you will get a good job, and you will be financially successful. Story 36. Never burn bridges. Some bridges are okay to set on fire. School is for learning, not for socializing. It's for both. Everyone is treated equally. No, they are not. You have to have a reason to say no. You do not. Story 37. I work in schools, MHC, and it bothers me so much that kids will tell their teachers I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up, and will be told that's not a real job. There was a time when that was true, but it ain't now. Story 38. Work hard and you'll get far. Not always true. Everywhere you go, there's always one hole who fucks up all your hard work. Ever come across a narcissist in the workplace? Corporate office needs to save money, preventing you from a promotion, which would have come with more pay. You're an awesome worker, but workplace gossip prevents you from getting promoted, etc. In a perfect world, yes, working hard would get you far. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and even if you're an honest hard worker. Story 39. That capitalism is the one viable option for humanity, which is a psyop to enslave people to participate in a reward system for survival. Story 40. That family is something you should just have to deal with. Nah, fudge that. You can find your own family out in the world. You shouldn't have to put up with toxicity and things that aren't okay just because you share blood with someone. Story 41. Gods are real. Praying works. Education is the most important thing. Of 3, you work hard, you'll get what you want from life. Story 42. If you work hard, you will accomplish your goals or dreams. There's a lot of caveats to that. The world is not designed to allow people to be successful unless they know the right person. Story 43. Really, any of the necessary lies of civilization. The world is fair. If you work hard, you'll be rewarded, etc. Story 44. Nonviolence won the civil rights movement's victories. That violence is never the answer. Maybe it shouldn't be the first choice, but sometimes it's an inevitability. Sometimes it's a requirement. No matter how distasteful that may be, and I'd argue it's really only truly distasteful to those people who are served by it being so, the same people served by teaching nonviolence is the only way. Story 45. Do what you love and never work a day in your life. Speaking from experience, once money and expectations get involved, anything can become a job. Doesn't mean it can't be great and fulfilling, but it doesn't mean it'll never feel like you're going to work that day. Story 46. Make something you love into your job, and you'll never work a day in your life. I found this is actually a recipe for destroying something you love. Story 47. Hard work earns you a good retirement. In our system, you work hard and you might be able to afford a retirement. And based on our country's health, you might live to see the day you retire. Story 48. That you'll make six figures, million, directly out of college. No, you won't. My father got a good degree, civil engineering, and only one started making six figures a few years ago. But the spending power that he has is less than when he started. He wasn't making $63K out of college. Even once he got his PE, private engineering, license, did he even start making $70K? Story 49. That they need to follow societal rules and become part of the machine. Favorite quote, they have tamed all the wild children. They put them in boxes and make them sit still. They teach them ways of the past and suppress the ways of the future. Their feet are clean. The mud is untouched. Taming the wild to be the slaves of the future. Feeding the endless machine. Story 50. I've been rewatching a lot of 90s sitcoms, and the way they really push that you have to go to college. You'll never get a good job without a degree. You have to go straight to a 4-year, etc. How many of us exennials have so much school debt and don't work in the field we got our degree in? Story 51. Teenage years are your best years. I'm 19 now. Some of my friends are 20. I don't know a single person who actually thinks their teenage years were the best. Story 52. If you do good things, then good things will happen to you. False. There is no karma. There is no balance in the universe. There is no omnipotent being in the sky saying, well done for giving a homeless person a $5. You will receive a $10 in return. If you want to do some good for the sake of doing good, then I applaud you. But don't think life is like Newton Cradle. Story 53. That your GPA test scores define your worth, that you need to pick one career forever, and that asking for help is weakness. All lies that mess people up for years. Story 54. That life is supposed to be fair, and that if you work hard, everything will just fall into place. Reality is way messier, and luck and timing matter just as much as effort. Story 55. That you can do anything. You can be whatever you want. All you have to do is try. That's not exactly a lie, but it is incomplete. You have to reach for things, yes, but whether or not you achieve them is 99% of the time dependent on someone else helping you, one way or another. Story 56. There's no right time to have a baby. Just do it. WTAF, how has that been the advice since I was a kid in the 80s? You better be ready because you can't put it back. Story 57. You need college, and you don't need college. Both are true. It's a lie to present one as better. It's goal-based. Story 58. If you work hard, you'll be successful, and also that rich people are successful because they're hardworking and smart. Story 59. That exam results rule your life. The importance placed on something that has never once come up at a job interview in my adult life is beyond ridiculous. Story 60. Your worth is based off how productive and how much you're doing. No wonder literally every millennial is clinically burnt out and now are stuck in a functional freeze that they can't get out of. Life in autopilot just to get through the day is miserable. Story 61. You'll be miserable if you never marry and don't have kids. First of all, 50 of marriages end in divorce. And of the 50 of the marriages that do survive, at least half of them are people living in resentment or just barely tolerating the other person. So at best, 25 of people who marry end up somewhat happy in their marriage. Second, having and raising kids is a slog. First, for women, it's super hard on their body. Then it's about 5 years of carrying 247, about a mini-human that is constantly getting sick and giving those sicknesses to you, while you worry constantly about them accidentally injuring themselves due to poor motor control. Then it's cool for a bit because they are cute and they love you and can poop without your help and get injured slightly less often. ages 5 to 12. Then the hormones hit, and they dislike you for no reason for the next 8 years, while actively trying their hardest to get pregnant, even though they definitely aren't ready for it, while also possibly neglecting their future because they are more focused on fitting in than on becoming financially independent. Now you are older, and there's no guarantee that your kids will still love you or help you with stuff despite the fact that you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears, and major, into making them into a decent, respectable human being. Wow, went on a bit of a rant there. In all seriousness, though, getting married and having kids can be awesome. It's just that it's definitely not some magical pathway to happiness, and oftentimes it becomes a pathway to pain and disappointment. Story 62. That you'll feel like a grown-up. I'm 39, with a mortgage, husband, 2 kids, and a job I've been doing for 20 years, but I still look for the grown-up to save me when things go wrong. Story 63. The biggest lie is this idea that the government, some politician, is going to save us, knows what's best for us, works hard every day to make life better for us. Better to go to school, learn what you can, use whatever tools you can to better yourself, and go out and get yours. Those clowns will never save you. Story 64. I forget which grade school teacher it was, but when they were teaching us about civil rights in 4th grade history, they framed racism as something archaic, saying that it's a thing of the past. Yeah, that was a goddamn lie. One of the hardest things for me to accept as I became an adult was that racism is alive and well. Story 65. I forget which grade school teacher it was, but when they were teaching us about civil rights in 4th grade history, they framed racism as something archaic, saying that it's a thing of the past. Yeah, that was a goddamn lie. One of the hardest things for me to accept as I became an adult was that racism is alive and well. Story 66. Dude, how is the top comment not that Santa Claus flies to every house with a Christmas tree, breaks in silently, and offloads a pallet full of shit before retreating to the planet's northernmost extreme to rip off toy patents while he prepares to do it all again next year? Story 67. Get a high education and you will get a high-paying job. This generation has the highest percentage of people with higher education, but at the same time, a high unemployment rate. Story 68. That you can make it if you try. Most try and don't make it. There are actually too many hurdles for there to be a fair playing field. If you make it, you are either extremely lucky, gifted in some way, or wealthy. Story 69. That adult life is much worse than teenage younger years. I think it's harmful to keep telling kids they should be happy they're still young and shoot when one of them comes to you with poor mental health. Story 70. Respect your elders. Like some 55-year-old narcissistic prick abusing people is better than a teenager working a fundraiser for a food bank or something. Fudge that old shoot jerk fart knocker. Story 71. That you live in a free society. You live in a civil oligarchy. There's worker, slave, class, capitalist, owner, class. And that's it. And the latter has the entire legal system set up to shield itself from consequences. Story 72. You can be whatever you want to be. This is just flatly untrue. There are an incalculable number of variables that will prevent you from doing certain things. Most people cannot and will not ever be competitive bodybuilders because you can't inject yourself to Mr. Olympia, nor can you train yourself to it alone. You need the genetics. Most people cannot and will not ever be theoretical physicists because you need a certain level of IQ just to get through the door, much less to make any meaningful contribution to the field. Most people will not ever be Navy SEALs or Delta Force or SAS because you need to not only to be, mostly, genetically disease-free, but you also need normal color vision and incredible mental fortitude, although the last thing there can be developed. You have limitations in life. So does everyone else. That's okay. Most people are still able to live a full and rich life. Story 73. Hard work is how you get far in a company. Connections and personality. Knowing who to please is far more likely to get you far. Many organizations have a solid cap for a hard worker, while a lazier employee who goes golfing with the boss on the weekend will be promoted far quicker. Story 74. That good grades automatically lead to a good life. Meanwhile, my class clown owns 3 businesses, and I'm still figuring out taxes. Story 75. Most people are good. People respect hard work. To succeed, always give 110. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. Display active listening. Always follow the rules and tell the truth. I took all of these to heart as a young person, And all that ended up happening is it made people angry, or I was the only one following these and got treated like trash for it. It's like as soon as you graduate, you get a memo that says, just kidding, that I somehow never got. Story 76. Respect your elders because they know better. They largely don't. I'm not saying ignore them because they know nothing, but they're all idiots. Lean into your passion for what's right versus wrong, and then educate yourself about it so you can make informed decisions. Story 77. There's a lot of doom and gloom here. I just want to tell you all that you can still achieve very meaningful goals. They just don't necessarily come in the form of a rich career or massive house. I'm a playwright. I wrote a play during lockdown about the world ending, but the main character can only think about a girl he has a crush on. Spoiler alert, that was me. I eventually got with that girl, but she ended up being incredibly toxic and abusive. The play doesn't even show the female character or put her in any sort of negative light, but my ex went apeshit saying I couldn't put it on. She can be incredibly aggressive and even violent. I put that play aside for 5 years. Last night, it was performed on stage for the first time to a thunderous applause. Good things can happen, folks. Story 78. Currently, social media convincing folks in the West that far-right parties are the cure to all their ills. Story 79. Sometimes it does, but a lot of the time it's connections, timing, and luck. Hard work matters, but pretending it's the only factor sets people up to feel like failures when the system's the real problem. Story 80. To make your job your passion. I feel like this gives employers an easy way to exploit you. I'm a teacher. Story 81. You can be whatever you want when you grow up. Do well in school and you'll have a better life than your parents. Get straight A's and you'll get a scholarship. Get a degree and you'll get a good job and out-earn your parents. Get student loans. The education you get will give you a job that pays enough to pay them off. Working full-time will put a roof over your head. Be a good person and good things will happen to you. Be a good loyal person, woman, and any man would be lucky to have you. Say no, and he will stop. The acne will go away when you're an adult. Eat well, don't drink, don't do substances, exercise, drink water, and you won't be fat. Debilitating period cramps are normal. That's just a headache. You're fine. This prescription is going to help you and is not addictive at all, etc., 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 etc. Story 82. If you work hard, you'll make lots of money, or feel fulfilled, or be successful, or blah, blah, blah. There are plenty of people who work super hard and nothing special happens to them. They barely scrape working 65 hours a week with little time and/or energy for family or enjoyment. Their bodies often start to break down under the workload and stress, and they grow old extremely quickly. There are tens of millions of these people in America alone. Meanwhile, there are plenty of people who have rich, successful lives based solely on luck and happenstance. When it comes to being successful, being born into the right family, investing at the right time, knowing the right people, having gifted genetics, having access to the right resources, living in the right place or under the right government can all be more important than working hard. Working hard is important, but it is far from the only thing. Story 83. Society loves telling young people, study hard, work hard, and you'll be set. But the truth is, life is messy. Progress isn't linear. Failures are inevitable. And building anything worthwhile, whether it's fitness, skills, or a career, takes consistency, patience, and a lot of trial and error. The sooner you realize that, the less pressure you'll feel trying to have it all overnight. Story 84. Working hard is the path to success. No, it's not. Working smart is the path to success. Find a way to make your unit of work equal the most payout. That's it. The amount of effort you put in is meaningless. Story 85. Pay your taxes and save for your retirement. And in the end, you have a nice next egg to live your life and enjoy your golden years. Not true. You work your whole life, pay all your taxes, Social Security, and in the end, you end up getting some kind of terminal disease, cancer, and you end up dying. And then, last but not least, right before you die, they wanted the doctors, the little hospitals, they want to take every penny you can get out of the government, out of your hard-earned money. Sad but true. Story 86. You can do anything you put your mind to. Not true. Some things aren't in the cards no matter what you do, for reasons outside your control. The best you can try and do sometimes is hope you make change to make things better for the future generation. Story 87. Your future will be better than ours. It was true until now. A huge breakdown of social contract is happening, and nobody is willing to acknowledge it because it is terrifying. Story 88. It's okay to have kids too young, because you always find a way to work it out. If that were true, there would not be so many messed up, mentally ill, substance abusing, miserable, angry, violent people in the world. Maybe a few come from happy, stable, two-parent families, but not many. Story 89. The adulthood means freedom. It's mostly responsibility wide aside of bills. Real freedom is being able to live without constant financial anxiety, and that's a privilege, not a guarantee. Story 90. That white people are inherently racist and are the cause of all the bad things that are happening to people. Story 91. If you work hard, your dreams will come true. Oftentimes, it's impossible for one to enter the upper class. If you were born poor middle class, there's a 90% chance you'll stay in it your whole life. Story 92. Well, they do not tell them, but they are a huge customer base for being easily influenced. Once we are down to diapers, they are forgotten for the next generation. And the youngsters play so well. At my age of 55, I can only grin at the so wannabe adults at 25. Just they decided they could feed a child or more. At 30, the adulthood became ridiculously serious. You are fooled and brainwashed every single generation to be adult when you are not even. Story 93. You are what you do. Nah, your career is just something that helps you wake up and pay the bills. Don't bake your identity into your job. That's the fastest way to lose yourself and enter a debilitating life crisis. You are more than your job. You are worth more than what you contribute to a job. Don't get fooled into the corporate toxicity. Story 94. Time is never on your side, no matter how young you are. And unfortunately, your accomplishments can be based on who you know in that industry or field, and not your skill or the hard work and hours you put into it. You can do everything right, and all it takes is one fudge to derail that and potentially set you back years. Story 95. About voting. Every adult I know tells me they're neither Democrat or Republican. Some people are different, but yeah, looks like no matter who you vote for, it's just bad either way. There's still cons. Story 96. That they have any chance of being successful in the current society that exists. Young people are being farmed for their resources and energy via debt loans and other economic problems. That's intentional, and it won't stop until the people who are feeding on the young are no longer able to do so. The best thing a young person can do is stay out of debt completely. Story 97. Everyone needs to go to college. Most go because they are told they need to, and get some random BS they will never use and be paying on for years. Story 98. That you have to go to college or university to be successful in your life and get rich. But the reality is that you always will be an employee working 9 to 5 until your retirement. Story 99. That you need to move out of your parents' house ASAP. Try and save money and/or continue schooling as long as you need to. It's brutal out here. Story 100. The only way to be successful is to go to college and get a degree. Very few self-made millionaires and billionaires ever finish college. Story 101. That you'll be able to buy a home when you land your career job. That has changed for the worse. Please try to ignore all the people who came here to say you have no future, and hard work gets you nowhere. That lie is as old as time. It's as old as no one wants to work anymore, which has been spouted for hundreds of years. There is opportunity left in the world, and in the U.S. Story 102. Work hard, follow the rules, and you'll be rewarded with enough income to make sure you have housing, food, healthcare, and a few luxuries. Hasn't been true since the early 90s. Story 103. When they tell young girls that becoming a wife and mother is the most important, fulfilling thing they'll ever do. Story 104. A tie between anything to do with meritocracy and getting your bachelor's degrees guarantees a middle-class life retirement. At least in America, billionaire greed had eliminated all that. Story 105. It gets better. History is littered with the corpses of people for whom things did not get better. The only way things are going to get better is if you do something about it, and sometimes not even then. Story 106. You can be whatever you want to be. Of course this is possible. What they don't is the amount of hard work it needs to make this even remotely work. Story 107. That they are who they are and lack any power to transform their lives. I call it the Harry Potter philosophy. You're a great wizard, Harry. You just don't know it yet. No, you become a great something through focus and hard work. Natural talent will help, but it isn't enough by itself. More importantly, your potential is not defined by a few early experiences. Story 108. Life is fair. No, it really isn't. Games are fair, or supposed to be. But that's the biggest difference between real life and a good game. In real life, you can do everything perfectly and still lose. Story 109. Hard work leads to success. Not always. Oftentimes, hard work just leads to more hard work and greater responsibilities, but very little bump in pay. Story 110. How the hell do I know? I'm not a parent and haven't been, quote, young since the early 2000s. I assume the biggest lie is something along the lines of, if you work hard, you'll succeed, or you need to work hard to succeed. Subtly but importantly different. But I feel like many young people know those are not necessarily truths, so maybe no one says them. Story 111. They won't let you use a calculator in the real world. Actually, people today are currently outsourcing their entire education and job performance to a chatbot. So don't lie to kids. Tell them the reason to show work is to learn the material well. Story 112. If you work hard, you will be rewarded. Just hand your CV to the boss if you want a job, and they will admire your moxie, and you will take over the company one day. Story 113. Practice makes perfect. No, not always. Sometimes you just need to accept your limits, and sometimes you need to actually learn the correct techniques in order to avoid cementing in bad habits. Story 114. That a 4-year degree is the only route for success. I am a high school teacher, and it irks me to no end why this is still pushed. I work at a charter school. Their obsession with honors and AP and college prep is actively harmful to students. I've got kids in 10th grade that are coming in daily crying about test scores or whatever, or their workload. They start our kids as 9th graders in AP. Last year at Senior Awards, our principal proudly declared to all that the graduating class of about 75 students had raised over $1 million in scholarship funds, but then followed up with, but X% of them are going to the military, workforce, or community college. So really it's like only this many students raised that money. I swear you could hear a pin drop. I looked over at my coworkers with a WTF look. Not 5 minutes earlier had she celebrated and honored a kid who signed up for the Marines. I swear, I can't with this industry anymore. I'm getting out at the end of this year, which helps me, but not my own kids or my students, unfortunately. Story 115. It's what's inside that counts. Not entirely false, but what is on the outside can make your life a hell of a lot easier. The world is nicer to pretty people. Story 116. Earlier generations had it easier. They ruined everything for you. Reality is the exact opposite. Life used to be much more difficult for almost everyone, by a lot. Story 117. That you should go to college and follow your dreams, and it will all work out. It's really more important to decide on a general field that will support you and work towards it. It could be business, law, trades, medicine. You should be prepared that you'll have to narrow it down as you go, and you do not have all the time in the world to decide later. You can absolutely waste all your time and money and have nothing to show if you don't have any sense of direction. Or you can very successfully end up in a career that you won't be able to support yourself in. That doesn't mean you can't do something you want, but you have to decide what matches work you find enjoyable or satisfying with work that can pay bills. Story 118. Summary of the thread so far. Capitalism is the lie that keeps getting sold, and a lot of billionaire bootlickers are on this thread desperately trying to propagate it for some reason. Story 119. Keep your head down, work hard, go to a good college while you build a massive debt. Get married, have kids, and die happy, supposedly. Story 120. That higher education is the key to everything in life. That all history is good and something to be proud of. Story 121. Not really what society tells us, but I used to believe adults were very mature and able to deal with anything. But to my disappointment, adults are generally just tall, hairy children. Story 122. Young struggling leftists complaining that society is the problem. A sad perspective on life and success. Story 123. That they are inherently inferior to older people and that they must prioritize maintaining that order and various traditions. Story 124. Secondary education is a must. Not that it wouldn't help, but a good chunk of the population make it just fine in life without it. Especially nowadays, getting secondary education doesn't promise you a spot in the field. Story 125. Charisma is the most important skill you can have in life. It's not about what you can do. It's about what you can convince others that you can do. Looking good also helps this a lot. Story 126. I don't think there are any big lies. Social media has made sure that any single fact or opinion on literally anything is debated and scrutinized and shredded every which way, which is why everyone above the age of 10 seems to be in crisis. There is nothing to hope for. All the feel-good lies like hard work, the middle-class dream, etc. have been shredded. Everyone is reading and hearing the bad news and realizing there is nothing to hope for and nothing to be optimistic about. Story 127. Another one. Trade school is the way to go. Meanwhile, China has robots that are already working in their society. It won't be long before robots are making repairs. Story 128. That success is measured in your job and finances. True success is measured in your relationships and how well you are able to live for yourself. You could be a very successful person career-wise, but have zero long-lasting relationships. Story 129. That college is worth it still. You do not need college to have a successful career, network well, or have long-term income. Story 130. To help with the kind of motivation that drives society firmly into the future we best anticipate, we have to tell all young adults that it's always worth the effort. When they get to a certain age, many of them realize the lie. Story 131. Go to college. That's just what you do. I think this is a disservice on so many levels, and it's pretty scummy. I've recently seen the whole create your degree colleges, and they're putting these kids into debt with useless degrees and pretty much putting them under a mountain. Story 132. Hard work, success. If that's true, then show me a rich donkey. Some people are just more lucky than others, and that's why they get better opportunities than you. Life is not fair. That's something you need to learn real quick. Story 133. Higher education is really, really important. This is only true if you want a job where you must have an exact qualification. Story 134. That you have to go to college and get a bachelor's degree immediately after high school. Choosing a career path at 18 doesn't even work out half the time. I'm 29 and realizing I don't want the career path I chose when I was in college, and I basically have no other options unless I go back to school. It's okay to take your time. Take a gap year or two and figure out what you like. Trade schools can also be lucrative. A 4-year degree is not a necessity. Story 135. You can do whatever you dream of doing if you just work hard enough. Definitely a lie, but not a malicious one. I think current old people could genuinely make a living doing a lot of things. Even being a secretary made enough money to be more than a drop in the bucket. Now they want you to go into debt for a grad degree in some BS field no one is hiring for, just so you can get on your knees, humiliate yourself, and beg for a job that makes $35K with no hope of upward mobility. Only people with rich parents can afford certain career paths now. It is what it is. Story 136. Be true to yourself. Always be yourself. Nope. You have to stop every now and then to ask yourself if yourself isn't a jerk. And if you are, you need to make some tweaks to how you behave. You're not perfect just the way you are. Treat other people well. Story 137. That they'll have a future. Think again. Crashing economies. War. Companies gaining more and more political powers. The rich getting richer. Story 138. In the United States, at least, middle-class kids hear a lot of work hard, get an education, and you will be successful. That was not always so when I was growing up in the early 2000s. Now it's much worse. Owning a home is almost like a luxury now. Big business has captured a lot of the housing market, even in places you wouldn't expect it. I live in a rural county in the Midwest. My jaw dropped when I learned that this property management corporation opened a new development and bragged that they now had just over 1,000 units for rent just in my county, which has a population of about 34,000. That's a disgustingly significant share of housing when you're thinking per capita. And they aren't the only company doing this here, of course. Story 139. Being rich by 30 is a necessity, and having money means you're rich. You can still be a piece of shit with money, the same as you can be a piece of shit with no money. Story 140. That you have to go to college only. High school is one big machine that I swear is in bed with these industries. My nephew is in the trades. No debt. Story 141. These threads are so depressing every time. So many people who think success is the amount of money in your bank account. Story 142. That hard work pays off. It only pays off if you make your own business living. Being hired, the only payoff you'll get is insignificant promotions and more work. Story 143. I'm a Gen Xer, and it was pounded into us that we could be anything we wanted to be, as long as we tried hard enough. Story 144. You're special. Most will end up average. Not a bad thing. Not everyone can make it big. That's mathematically impossible. A good chunk end up even below average. Story 145. I'm 40 now, and be yourself, and you can achieve anything, have always been, and will always continue to be a lie. If you don't understand how yourself functions within a completely racist, classist, xenophobic, and biased society, you're absolutely doomed. This is why education is being gutted. Story 146. Being a teacher is a bad job. All my friends who went that route seem like they're doing fine, and maybe happier than their peers. Story 147. If by young people you mean little children, the biggest lie would be that a supernatural entity made everything, knows everything, and is in control of everything, and that there is an afterlife, and that they will either be with this entity in a realm of eternal happiness or banished to a realm of external suffering. This indoctrination is worse, as most remain still convinced it's true well past reaching the age of reason, all the way through adulthood. So basically, from about age 8 or so, when most of us have gained the reasoning and logic skills to begin to truly recognize the difference between myth and reality. Story 148. That college is the only way to be successful. With only a high school diploma, I'm making more money than most people with bachelor degrees. Story 149. If you just work hard enough, like we did, I'm not at all saying that investing in yourself and making wise choices is no longer worth it. It absolutely is. But the world our parents, and particularly our grandparents, grew up in was a very different one. They didn't appreciate how good they had it in many ways. I know people my age who work their absolute jerk off, professional people who do all the right things, and yet they cannot even afford to own a shithole house in the middle of nowhere. Many of these things people used to take for granted in a first world country are now basically unattainable, as is financial freedom more broadly. Now that I'm a few years away from achieving UNC status and have acquired some life experience, I honestly have no idea what to tell the younger generation. I do try not to be too pessimistic, but from where I'm sat, most people younger than me are screwed if nothing changes, or even if it does, in the case of AI making many low-skill jobs obsolete soon. Scary times. Story 150. $10K to start a business is too risky. Getting a loan for $300K for college will guarantee you a high-paying job. Story 151. At least in the U.S., that working hard and pulling yourself up from the bootstraps will make us happy, and we'd be able to afford things like our parents and grandparents did on minimum wage. Story 152. Companies care about you. Fudge showing loyalty, especially for Fortune 500s. You want to quit? Quit. Fudge him. Story 153. That women can have and do it all. Individuality, marriage, kids, career. We can, but not very well all at the same time, and not without risks to our well-being. Story 154. I don't know if we are told this or that we tell ourselves this. People will be different when you leave high school. Nope. Story 155. That some people are just good with money, and it's not a skill you learn. Dealing with money and credit are both sets of guidelines you need to follow. That's it. It's learned behavior. There is no innate ability, like certain people are just good with money. Story 156. No, they are the most confusing years of your life. You're broke, tired, and constantly pretending you're fine. The best years are when you stop trying to prove yourself. Story 157. College will give you better opportunities than not going to college. A load of boo hockey. Trades are well-paying and pretty steady jobs. Story 158. That I can afford the life older generations could afford with a somewhat equivalent income. Yes, sure. Allow me to introduce trickle-down economics. Show me to introduce class struggle from the top, and lest you forget, allow me to introduce capitalism. No, I'll not be able to afford buying my own house or flat. Life is more expensive than back then, because corporations are still figuring out ways to get more money for less and making you pay for it. Hell, the entire government right now ruling here would have been unbearable for their parties just 30 years ago. That is how openly corrupt they are. Story 159. That if you just work hard and follow the rules, everything will magically fall into place. Reality hits different, and a lot of success depends on luck, timing, and who you know. Story 160. That life is a great thing. In our today's society, as probably most of human existence, we had lived in extremely primitive, exploitative systems. There is nothing happy about life. I think Buddhists got it right by saying that life is suffering. That they forgot to add is that it's the human being that made it even worse suffering. We are just exceedingly dumb. Story 161. That you can't just be something like an artist if that's what you want to be. You can. You just tell everyone you are and then get figuring out what kind you'd like to be. No one is going to call you an artist before you do, and you'll never be finished becoming one. So why do you think you can't just start being one today? You can. If you want to be an artist, you already are. So claim the fudge name proudly. Don't wait for approval. Don't want until you're 50 like I did. It's not too late, but you regret not just doing it all your life like you could have. Story 162. Democracy brings politicians who represent the people and governments work for the benefit of the people. Story 163. That we live in a meritocracy. Absolute horseshoot. It's always about being in the right place at the right time, or who you know. Far too many people fail upwards for this to be even a semblance of meritocracy. Story 164. Society doesn't teach you economic literacy, so you better start investing time into learning how economy works so you reach economic independence earlier. Story 165. That you need a college degree. Wrong, unless you want to be a Drew or a lawyer or a college professor. What you need is to know the right people in life. Connections are 90% of the battle. Story 166. You cannot replicate success. There are too many factors changing constantly. You can do exactly what someone else did and receive a different outcome. Story 167. You can be or do whatever you dream of. It's not just about sticking to it until you get good or working hard anymore. It's all about dumb luck and connections. Story 168. Go to college. Unless your parents are paying for it, you'll wind up in a huge amount of debt that has compounding interest, have a degree that's absolutely worthless, and partied too hard 2 to 4 years of your life when you could have put that into an apprenticeship and been a journeyman by then and be making like $50 an hour. Story 169. How easy it is to get pregnant. It's not even that complicated to teach, but instead it was just like intimacy, baby, unless there's protection. No, that's not how it works. Ridiculous. We would have tried to have kids way earlier if I was taught it can actually be really hard sometimes. Edit. I think I missed the still tells part in the post. I'm more ranting about sext in the early 2000s. I honestly have no idea what they teach today. Story 170. That is all washes out in the end. I doesn't. Someone always get more or less than you. Life is not fair. It's rough and messy. Story 171. When I grew up, it was every adult has to write in cursive, and you won't always have a calculator available. I'm old now, so not sure what the young people get told, but I'd assume it's to do with AI. Oh, and college. It isn't for everyone, and you can find great careers without a degree, but forcing yourself to attend college and rack up 5-6 figures in debt is a bad choice if stuff like welding, electrical, plumbing, construction, or even IT interests you. Story 172. George Washington's false teeth were made from wood. Emmett Till whistled. Native Americans have something inside them that makes them process adult beverage differently. All three are bullshit. Story 173. If you work hard, you will be rewarded. Some people, no matter how hard they work, can never get ahead because the system is broken. Story 174. Follow your joy. Money doesn't matter as long as you're happy. You can do anything, everything in their vein. Story 175. Sometimes it does, but a lot of the time, connections, timing, and luck matter more. Hard work should be enough, but the world doesn't always work that way. Story 176. Keep your head down, and you'll stay out of trouble. Like, just say you're afraid of everything. This lie stopped me from having fun for so many years. Story 177. Don't get married young. Wait to have children. 2 incomes are better than 1. Look at all this stuff you need. Renting is good. Story 178. Listen, Stow your elders. No, some of them have worked their entire lives and have nothing and no one with them. I don't want to be 65 or older still working and have nothing. Story 179. Ignore them and seek counsel from mentors in your field. They have nothing to gain from your success and are less annoying than your relatives. Story 180. I dislike when people tell little girls that a boy picking on her means he likes her. My family still does that, and it makes me shudder. Story 181. The older I get, the more I wonder what lies are actually necessary. Not just lies society tells young people, whatever those may be, but lies I tell myself and are actually beneficial to myself or others because I believe in them. Story 182. Most things I would say, from life choices to careers, money, children, marriage. What's the right and wrong thing to do? Freedom of speech, which is so noisy. So ignore the noise. Remember, it's your journey, not anyone else's. Remember, you have free will. So it's up to you to decide your life choices, because only you have to live with the regret if you listen to someone else and they are wrong, not anyone else. Story 183. Being dependent on others to take care of you until you die while modern medical practices keep you hanging on is no way to treat family. Story 184. Dude, where do we even start? Santa? American Dream? America One? Anyone can do it if they work hard. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Story 185. You can't reach the top, dog. You do anything yo MF mind wants. Take the shot you have been wanting to. Look at me, I am one of the best rap artists of the generation, but I wouldn't be here without someone believing in me. Story 186. You're young. You'll heal quickly at doctors and physical therapists. Yeah, you're stuck with this for life. Story 187. Just be yourself. At least you have to be your very best version of self. Or better yet, do what those that are successful around you do. Don't just be yourself. Story 188. That life follows a straight path. Go to school, get a degree, land a stable job, and everything will work out. In reality, success today is rarely linear. Skills, adaptability, and emotional intelligence often matter more than traditional milestones. The world changes too fast for one fixed formula to guarantee happiness or security. Story 189. That there are more good people in the world, that good things happen to good people. Ha ha, yeah. Good luck with that. Story 190. If we take money away from other people, you will be better off. It's a less complicated version of, the government really does want to spend money helping you have a better life. But unfortunately, we have wars to fund in Europe, the Middle East, and South America. We promise, if you just grant us the power to take more money from people, we totally won't spend it on those and other wars. We'll spend it to help you. We promise. Story 191. You can be whatever you want. Well, there are many barriers. Money. Education is expensive. Good teachers. You will be impressed how much a good teacher can make you love a subject you dislike. The job existing. Not only because of AI, but it's AI. Story 192. If you're nice and respectful, people will treat you good. Nah. Some people are genuine assholes that no matter what you do, they're always going to give you attitude and won't like you. Story 193. Got told as a teen that it only gets worse from here, when you're our age, by two old ladies in my neighborhood. Around that time, stuff hit the fan with a chronic pain condition I'd developed. I was 17 and relying on mobility aids they were using. Became tragic end from the bullying about it, and have only recovered emotionally in the past 2 years. Things can get worse or better at any time. You just have to roll with whatever happens. Story 194. Work hard to succeed. Ha, 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 ha. More like be likable and make friends with the people born into the club. Story 195. Your hard work and diligence will make you rich. It will make somebody rich, all right, but it won't be you. Story 196. Several things I'm telling my children. 1. The world is actually ran by the 0.01 elites. Before you were born, people already excelled in life and carved out their own kingdoms, shaped own power structures, and molded the system how they wanted it. Kind of like how in an open world game, the people who spawned in first already got the good stuff for themselves, and they just end up running the server. There exists a bunch of pre-made power structures, social circles, and cliques that collectively hold 90 of the world's power and wealth. They aren't necessarily one cohesive or unified entity either. In fact, they often fight and compete amongst themselves. Despite that, these various cliques of people are aware that it is people like them who collectively run things, and they find more similarities amongst themselves than the common folk. Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi live more similar lives to each other than with a commoner like you. They all know each other. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates, Taylor Swift, Cristiano Ronaldo, Mr. Beast, Peter Thiel, the upper management of BlackRock, Walmart, Toyota, Apple, the Supreme Court judges, senators, etc. They may not all be friendly to each other, but they've all met and talked to each other. They have all been to the same low-key social events, ate dinner together, are neighbors, know the same people from school, have mutuals friends or family are dating or married to each other. They're all connected in some way, just by the nature of their status. Once you surpass a certain threshold of wealth and power, even if you are part of different cliques that might even be actively fighting each other, you inadvertently rub shoulders and interact with each other. This collective group of elites make up 0.01 of the population, yet exert more influence on society and the outcome of history than the other 99.99 of the population. They're not inherently evil or bad, but on your way to the top, you just end up getting a lot more than others. And turns out they're still human, so they like hanging out with people who are like themselves. But deep down in their minds and behind closed doors, they know they're the ones who are actually running the show, and everyone else who isn't them are sheep and NPCs that merely exist in their server. When you think that you're the player and everyone else are NPCs, you do actions that hurt the NPCs. Not because you're a bad person, they're simply not thinking about you. When I'm playing a video game, I don't even consider NPCs because, well, they're NPCs. They're just common folk living out their mundane, predictable, and unremarkable lives. It's their world, and you're just living in it. And that's the horrifying reality of how the elites think and explains much of our world today. 2. You can't actually become anything you want. You need that special combination of innate talent, work ethic, right connections, and a bit of luck to be born in the right place at the right time. The harder the goal, the fewer people who can meet the prerequisites. As you grow older, it becomes obvious that the concept of everyone is born equal is totally false. Don't tell me children from innately talented, hardworking parents and children from average, talented, hardworking parents have an equal chance of doing well in a certain field. We are not at all born equal, and some people are just better suited for certain things than others. The horrifying reality is that most people are about average at most things, and we as a society haven't been honest to ourselves on what that means. We should tell young people to find what they're best at, work relentlessly at it every day, and hang out with other people with similar levels of talent and obsession. That's sort of the idea behind college, but it should start at a much younger age. In middle school, high school, don't try to be friends with everyone. Don't try to fit in. Find others that are like you, so you can be free to be yourself and not conform, and stick with your real friends. Many others things